Hello and welcome to the Crone Codes, a gathering place for women of all ages and all stages to remember your worth, your purpose, and your power. I'm your host, the creator and resident crone, Joan Advent. Hello and welcome back to the Crone Codes. I'm your host, the creator and resident crone, Joan Advent, and I am honored and delighted to welcome a friend, a colleague, soul sister, fellow mother, coming back, Margaret Jacobson. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today, Joan.
Yes, this is our second time together, but it's your first time with a solo interview.
It
So
is.
we're going to dive deep into the medicine of Margaret.
Aw.
Yeah, which is deep and rich. So, Margaret, I love to start out with the tradition of expressing and sharing who you are and what you bring through a meditative process. So, as I read what most would call your bio, I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes and receive that. And listeners, as we do this, I encourage you to also close your eyes if you're able and just receive the codes of who Margaret is, what she brings. Are those facets that you resonate with, aspire to, maybe share some of those same codes? So we're just going to take a deep breath. Margaret is known as the Mother Rising. The Mother Rising. She is a mother of 3 young adults. She is a health creation mentor and the host of the Yin Care podcast. Margaret has a background in psychobiology and master's degrees in health services administration and public administration. She spent years inside the medical system, integrating other forms of medicine and trying to change a broken system before transitioning to a path that she calls sovereign medicine. Alongside her husband, Dr. Daniel Hudson, she co-stewards a health ecosystem that includes Yin Care, the Yao Clinic, and the Yao Company. And she is dedicated to helping women step out of medical indoctrination and reclaim their health through womb wisdom, functional medicine, and self-governance. Welcome, Margaret.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really magical. That was a really cool process. Thank you, Joan.
Yes, you're welcome. I I fully believe in having moments where who we are reflected back to us, and I think the collection of what we call a bio can be so, it can be so matter of fact or like quickly gotten through to get to the meat of the matter, but there is resonance in who you are and the way you craft even those words of how they come together. So it feels important to me to honor that. And I am very excited for what we're going to dive into today, but I really want to start with one of the phrases that jumped out at me, which is this idea of sovereign medicine, or this concept that you're introducing. Can you let us know what does that mean to you? Where does that come from? How did that originate for you? What are all the details about sovereign medicine?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Buckle up. Here we
Put
go.
your seatbelt on. Here we go.
Buckle up, everybody. Gosh, it's been a journey for me. I think, it's been a personal journey, first of all, in having my own health issues and stepping into my own power through health, through a divorce, through all different pieces of my life that really contributed to really having a very deep and profound knowing as to what it means to be truly sovereign and peaceful, living in peace, having peace in the body. And I'm still on my journey. I haven't arrived at any one spot, except that where I'm at present, being present with myself where I am. And it also is my background in health services administration, in working with my husband and creating this ecosystem, and also being part of being on a spiritual journey and a spiritual path, and being within many spiritual communities. And a lot of what I kept noticing was that a lot of women that were really what I was experiencing, their depth of spirituality as quite profound. As soon as they would get a diagnosis of something, suddenly became a victim to it. A victim in a victim sort of situation, or portrayed themselves as victim, whether or not they acknowledged it. It was through the language that they were using. The doctor said they had to, or they needed to get this done, or they needed to get that done, or they. There's lots of different examples, but that was a piece of it. And I kept thinking, why? I don't get it. Like, why are we continually moving ourselves, when we're stepping so far into our power in these spiritual communities? What is the disconnect when it comes to our health? And so I've come to a number of conclusions as to kind of what has caused that. Do you want me to share that? Do you want me to go from there?
Sure. If you want to share your theories or your observations,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So my sense of it is that it's really irrational. To the point, it really just doesn't make any sense. It's a very, if people, honestly, if people heard themselves speaking as if they were someone else, they almost would notice that there's something that's not in alignment with everything else in their life. But they are completely irrational about it. And the place where they're the most irrational is around birth, is around like how we give birth. People completely irrationally concern themselves with women making sure that the baby is, this fear of the baby being okay, or that the mom's not going to be okay, or that the birth's not going to be okay. And there's so much irrational fear within the context of this type of conversation, that it has really lent me to believe that we have been traumatized in the ways in which we are giving birth. And it's not to say that some women don't have untraumatic births. And it's not to say that some women don't have very empowering births. But predominantly speaking, the culture has received a level of birth trauma, and that not only the birth trauma happens for the mother, it happens for the father or the partner that's there, because they are witnessing, or they are a bystander to oftentimes traumatic events that happen that they feel that they cannot stand up to or stand up for. Mm-hmm. And the reason which they can't or don't is often because of their own traumatic experience, meaning that it imparts a piece of submission to an established medical system as being the one who knows, the one who saves. And therefore this trauma that's been inflicted gets imparted on everybody that's in the baby. The baby's feeling the energetic, transmission of this at the time. And so we become in our lives, because of this, the pervasiveness of this, the Western medical system overlaid on top of this trauma. Like, it really is almost like, and I know this is extreme for some people to hear, but it is almost like a cult that when you're in a cult, there's oftentimes a traumatic event that's inflicted upon the people that are participating in the cult to get them to stay a part of it. And so if you can kind of like reflect on that as a possibility, then we get to have like more of an insight into our own trauma around that.
Yes. So one of my previous guests, Marion Rose, coined the phrase the disconnected domination culture. And she does teach through her lens about the disconnection that often occurs around birth in the Western world, and that disconnection, which in part I'm hearing you name, the fear, like the fear that is predominant in the approach to care in the OBGYN world, that then transmits into other worlds, but that disconnection enables domination, which is part of what I hear you naming as well. Just that the medical system has been created, or whatever, evolved into our Western traditional medical complex system, has evolved into this top-down domination, whether it's victim and savior, or just the fight, like the having to fight whatever the symptoms are. So all of that. So I completely understand and appreciate what you are getting at, what you're trying to name. So for you, it sounds like you can see really clearly in people's fields and their experiences through their words. You can reflect back and hear the ways that they are perhaps disowning their power, giving their power away, feeling like a victim to the circumstances. Or I know you mentioned in something that you sent to me earlier, like it does create this disconnect with their own body. Am I getting
Yeah,
that?
definitely. I mean, yes, 100%. We've been made to not trust our own body. We've been programmed to trust someone else who is the God that knows more about our body. And within that then sort of God figure, or doctor figure, and the system in which they are controlled by as well, they coerce, they manipulate, they bully, they surveil. Like, it is a full system that is developed to keep you in an enslavement of your own, and we don't realize that we're doing it of our own free will choice. And we do have free will choice, and most of us recognize that. But how we choose to, and it's not just like, I don't even want to, I'm not gonna, let me take 1 second, step back. There are times when we may choose to participate in that system simply because there are options that are offered, lab work, or other types of testing, or maybe there's a professional that we do have a trusting relationship with. We may choose to step back in it, but how do we step back into that system in our sovereignty? And how do we know what types of providers are team players in our own sovereign health journey? Like, those are the pieces. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So is that part of what your mission or your work is about? I know you have the Yin Care podcast and that you've been doing this whole series on medical indoctrination. And so these are your efforts to kind of spread the word, so to speak, for folks to wake up or to recognize the...
Yes. I personally feel that women are, and our womb space in particular, is the more we come into our own intuition and the more that we start to trust ourselves, the more that we step into our own sovereignty and our own sovereign power. And that, to me, as women, when we do that, we start to, we naturally want to help our families. We want to help our partners. We want to help our communities. We are naturally deeply connected to our planet. And through clearing these energies through our own physical body, we actually are helping our planet, because our physical body is the way in which we consciously come into our body in our own sovereignty, is our own God-given awakening. And we then function as these transmitters, embodied transmitters of energy to our beautiful Mother Earth. And so that we're not only, we're cleaning up our communities, we're cleaning up our families, we're cleaning up our, the way in which we build the new earth and heaven on earth, but we're also allowing our beautiful planet to evolve at the same time. So yes, it's a huge mission of mine. And the way in which I work personally is, yes, through the Yin Care podcast platform and coaching. But my husband and I also have this ecosystem of, he is a Chinese medical doctor. So we have a whole, he has a practice doing Chinese medicine integrated with functional medicine, with an emphasis on microbiome work as well, and obviously Chinese internal herbal medicines. And so how we work in that clinic is all about helping patients and empowering patients. And by empowering, I mean helping patients step into their own power. We are not empowering them. We are creating an environment for them to step into their own power, in which case they're empowering themselves. And again, that's through relearning how to take care of ourselves. Nobody teaches you in a Western medical model how to take care of yourselves, how to eat, how to sleep, how to navigate positive mental thought processes, etc. All of that is sort of infiltrated throughout the way that we manage the clinic, when someone steps into that. And additionally, Yin Care sort of developed out of like a signature product that my husband had brought from China, which is an herbal wash product that's used for women who have damp heat, or toxic heat conditions, which within those conditions, women can develop things like bacterial vaginosis, HPV, yeast infections. It's a very, very, amazing tool to use for those conditions by gently nudging the vaginal microbiome or what have you back into balance without obliterating all of the natural microbial networks. And so that product that he brought over is named Yin Care. And my previous business was the Mother Rising, doing divorce wellness coaching and with the Masters in Health Services Administration. And so when we started merging our lives together, it seemed very natural that Yin Care is really about caring for yourself. And so we just sort of merged in the Mother Rising within that. Now, the last piece of the ecosystem that I wanted to mention, which is why I brought up the Herbal Wash product, is that we also distribute that product to practitioners all over the country who are generally Chinese medical practitioners, but we have some OB-GYNs, we have some midwives, we have some naturopathic physicians, chiropractors, etc., even coaches, and we have a whole affiliate program as well. But because we distribute it to this network, we also work with practitioners in our ambassador program to really help practitioners start to shift this model of care to really help patients step into their power instead of creating networks of holistic care that are just based on this interestingly weird model of applying a business mentality of just marketing holistic care and in itself creating this form of medicine that is encouraging, because of the financial piece of it, encouraging patients to be recurring because they're making money off that. Yeah. So shifting the whole idea to empowering the patients.
Yes. So I just want to speak up in some ways, for the patients, because I do, just based on some of my work with folks who actually work in the medical system, I know that often when patients arrive, or we'll say people arrive to see a medical care person, they might be in a state of, the word disequilibrium comes to mind, but fear, anxiety, uncertainty. Am I safe? Can I navigate this? What's like the rug being pulled out from beneath us? And so the going from, like, I don't know that there's some ground in between getting from, oh my God, I'm a victim of cancer, or I'm a victim of fill in the blank, to standing at the top of the mountain of full empowerment. And I'm listening to my body, I'm partnering with my body.
Yes.
I remember reading a book of, and we've certainly heard about other people who have reversed medical symptoms and things just purely through alignment, thought, prayer, whatever the case may be. So there's a journey of getting from here to here.
Definitely. Yes.
And when someone's like in their fear and anxiety about, am I going to be okay? And they're just looking to, because based on my experience, it's like even the people that are the medical professionals can feel the burden of that.
100%. Yeah.
Like the burden of, I have to be the answer, or I have to have the answer. And yeah, just that whole, like, how do we bring more, the word grace is what comes to mind. Like, how do we bring more peace, you said, or grace to navigating health crises?
Yeah. Such a good question, Joan. There's a lot. There's a lot in what you just asked or just stated. It is a journey, and I mean, to the point of patience specifically, there's a couple things. One is, gosh, there's layers to this, and that's why I've developed like a couple of courses that are coming up that will kind of more gently walk people through this, because it is an unwinding. I mean, I kind of just really fast just laid out so much that's really like, what do you even do with all that, right? So on the front of the patient, the first piece of it is really getting into a safe space as best you can to start to come to terms with this piece that you are your own best healthcare provider. That you really, you are, even if you don't feel like it right now, you are the one who knows your body best. You're living in it. And I mean, it's always a choice, and there's different levels of this that we're gonna be ready for, and we may not all be ready right away for the depth of it. We may want to still have our hand held and rely on someone, and you may find a perfect provider for that. That being said, the goal, in my opinion, if you want to be walking on the path of stepping into true sovereign health, then the goal is that you come to a space where you're ready to really accept that you are fully and radically responsible for yourself. That means you don't get to rely on someone else to make that decision for you and to tell you what to do. And for example, my son had a huge bout of poison oak recently. He's very susceptible to poison oak, which is a whole other, like, what does that even mean spiritually for him? But that's, again, it's his journey to figure that out. And he said, Mom, I just want someone to tell, I'm willing to do something. I just want someone to tell me what to do. And I said, too bad. You don't get that. You have to find. And what he meant by that was more like, Mom, I want you to tell me where to go and what to do. And he's 25, And I said, you don't get that. You get to do your research. You get to find people in your community. I'm sure in Santa Barbara, California, you're not the only one who's had a giant case of poison oak. Start finding your network. Like, it's these baby steps of learning to educate ourselves around our own health issues that arise. So starting to just learn the languages, learning about our body, learning basic pieces of how it works, and start knowing how to curate the types of research that we need to do. And when we want to go to somebody for help, like, how do we know when we need to reach out to somebody and we need a professional? And who are those types of professionals that are the best professionals to help us? What are the key things we need to know to look for, right?
Yes. So it sounds like in this model, health professionals are more advisors, resources, and guides, potentially, where ultimately we are the final arbiter of what is true for us. So my last episode that came out last month, we were talking about just the journey of perimenopause and menopause, and how there can be so much push in one direction or another medically, in terms of what we should do. And we were talking in that episode about how we are each, just exactly what you said, we know ultimately what is best for us. Like, we each know. And there is responsibility with that. And there requires a willingness to take ownership. And in my experience, people can be ambivalent about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I do think that having the subcontext of recognizing we are both in miraculous human bodies
Mhm.
and they age and decay and we die. I mean, I think there is some necessity of accepting that.
I think that's foundational, honestly. I think the biggest piece, because honestly, the one of the biggest limiting factors to self responsibility is a fear of death. And so if we can just all kind of understand like that when we're born, the only thing we can count on is dying. That's the only thing we can actually count on, is the fact that we do die. My husband likes to say we die into this life and we birth out of it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I really like that, because it in most knowings about what it means to be here, we're here for the school of the Earth School University, right? And it's not always fun. So dying into it makes more sense than birthing into it. Like birthing out of it seems like more of the celebration. So reverse engineering the thought pattern around that is actually a key piece. And the other piece is that our bodies don't need to die as fast
Mm.
as our culture has led us to believe. So there is, yes, there are things that happen. It's a biological technology that we're embodied within, and the more that we learn to care for that biology with the interface of our consciousness, the
Mhm.
more the more life that actually is able to extend out of it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yes, it makes perfect sense. Yes, the vitality
Yes.
into much later chronological years than
Yes.
have been previously expected is possible. Like we're not necessarily here to be immortal, but we can, and it goes, but for me, it goes back to the fact that this is sacred. Like this vessel is sacred and so beyond miraculous in terms of its capabilities and that consciousness, as you said, like the whether you call it soul or consciousness that's inhabiting this. And like that's who we are. Like that is who we are. And sovereign health or sovereign medicine, sovereign wellness, whatever name you want to ascribe to it, is really learning our true identity and how to partner with what this all is. And when we have symptoms, that's my take on it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, when you, so sovereign health, I think would be like the bigger name to it. But really, the the piece that I love more than anything is, instead of looking at everything as health care, I really like to look at it as this health creation journey that we're on, and we're always looking for the next best step, and that is like the basic, most simple way to break down. If there's anything that people want to take away from this, it's really that we all know, like everyone listening to this knows that they're on a health creation journey, because we're all working on one thing or another, whether it's drinking more water or adding in a meditation or being more present or cooking cooking with presents or going to the farmer's market during the summer or whatever it is that we're making a choice, there's always little choices that are part of the health creation journey. And it's all about what there's going to be pieces that you are divinely inspired or land in your life or you're exposed to because yourself, your bigger self, your higher self, whatever you want to say, and your guides and your guardians and your ancestors, everybody's contributing to guiding you along this way to reclaim that full sovereign health. But it is the health creation journey that sort of takes you on that way. And there's no one path that's right for everybody. Perfect example. We get lots of people that come to our clinic that say, well, I eat healthy, like as if there's one healthy way to eat. There just isn't. There's everybody, if you do food sensitivity testing or microbiome testing, everybody's gut is completely different. And what food is most appropriate for you is totally different. So you don't get to just say you eat healthy, you know?
Yes. Yes. So I would love, if you're willing, and you shared a bit of this when you were on the Crucible of Motherhood episode that we released in May, but I would love to hear if you're willing to share your journey, because I don't know, have you always had this truth around health and medicine and all of that? Or I know you've had some health challenges
Definitely.
early on in your life. Can you walk us through just some of that
Absolutely.
story?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, gosh, I think, I think my mom, I guess I should always start with my mom, right? We should always start with what our moms taught us. My mom, she loved me so much and she still loves me, but obviously as a child is what I'm speaking to. She's still alive. She always fed me quote unquote health food, and so it's not to say that I was getting the most incredibly nutrient dense foods because again, that idea of health food, who's to say what was really healthy? But it made me conscious of there being something that was healthy and something that wasn't. And that definitely laid a foundation for me. That's also at the same time, my dad happened to have been in his work. He was one of the founders of one of the first corporate health clubs in Silicon Valley. And it was a really big, well-known, it was called the Decathlon Club. It's now one of the Western athletic clubs, but it was, I was exposed to basically health routines and working out and all of this. They had a massage therapist there, which was like, it was pre having a spa. People forget like spas are so big now. There weren't really any. I mean, there were spas, but there weren't that many. And they had an actual massage therapist there. She was doing energy work and all kinds of stuff. So I was exposed to a lot of that at a pretty young age and knew about that. And then I went to UC Santa Cruz, and people were exploring vegetarian diets and whatnot. And I couldn't even eat the food in the dorms. Like I had a repulsion to the food, and I was able to get a reprieve from a chiropractor that wrote a doctor's note for me that said that I needed to have access to kitchen space. So I started to learn to cook for myself. So that was like one whole thing that was like laying a foundation there, was my connection with food. And I think I had read a book called Fit for Life, which really was just kind of starting to learn that maybe it wasn't fully macrobiotic, but it was like touching on these ideas of food and how we eat being a big part of our health. As I got older, I think the biggest health challenge that I had was really that I had a cesarean section that really, I didn't realize that I had experienced such a trauma in that moment at the time, but it was definitely a trauma. And I wrote it off. I wrote it off as just normal postpartum. I wouldn't even acknowledge that it would be a postpartum depression, but kind of navigating that was a big deal. I was in a really challenging relationship that was very controlling and borderline psychopathic controlling, that I ended up getting divorced from and navigating my way through that, and a whole legal system, which is all about knowing your own power. Like, so there's that aspect, like knowing a medical system and a legal system. And I also had a melanoma at one point. And so navigating the fear induced dogmas around being afraid of the sun, and realizing that actually didn't, the melanoma didn't have anything to do with that. It was really related to probably a lot of the trauma that had been inflicted during the cesarean and the deep trauma that had like been going on within my relationship. That being said, I did have the melanoma removed, but it didn't keep me out of the sun. I also had post birth the development of Hashimoto's hypothyroiditis, and that was
And what are the symptoms of that?
yeah, it's exhaustion, and I mean, some people can have. I probably had some weight gain, but I didn't have a lot. I was so in that whole postpartum, like I had 3 kids within 6 years of each other, so it wasn't abnormal for me to be carrying a little extra weight at any point in time. I didn't really see it as that. And I honestly thought I had pretty good energy, considering the fact that I was always dealing with someone in diapers, you know. But basically the kind of epiphany that I had was I had a Tai Chi teacher who somehow randomly, probably very intuitively, told me I should consider removing gluten from my diet. And I did it for a few weeks, and she said, I think you should maybe consider doing it for more. And the more I did it, the more I felt like I had come off some kind of drug. I just felt like my whole world, and it come to find out, I actually had celiac when we did a blood test. So I had, and there's a lot that kind of go. I actually have a talk, we can link it if you want, that's on going gluten-free, which kind of goes into more detail about that aspect of my life and why that was so important and everything. But it added a whole nother dimension to my diet and making big changes and all of that kind of stuff. But basically, through changing my diet, the Hashimoto's just completely disappeared. I haven't had that for, I mean, I don't know how long I had it for, but within 6 months, it was off of the lab work.
Brilliant. So it sounds like you have had a template of empowerment around body and health really from the beginning, that you haven't had those moments where you yourself felt, whether it's terrified or unsure or
Oh
freaked
gosh, no. Oh no. Oh no. I was so a part of all of that myself. Absolutely.
you were.
Oh yeah. No, I more sharing with you that I've had these experiences,
Okay.
and then they led me to step out of the fear based on having been through it. But no, when I had a melanoma, are you kidding me? I thought I was freaking out. My doctor had said, when she took the biopsy, she thought it was going to be fine, and then it wasn't fine. And then I had to, go through this whole Mohs surgery. It's on my shoulder, this Mohs surgery, listening to somebody scrape your, I mean, like, no, it was like all of those things were terrible. Then, being roped into a series of, well, you need to go see the dermatologist every X number of months. And then they always finding them always finding a way to want to biopsy something else, and always finding something wrong, and finally me saying, forget it. I'm not ever going back there again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't need to. I literally didn't need to, so just kind of having these things, and these were all ways in which all carefully designed and orchestrated pieces of my life that allowed me to see that I was trustworthy. I was more trustworthy than anyone else. I knew my body, and that the system just had these they had developed. And if you look at that, there's a great book that it's really boring if you're not in health services, but it's actually a fascinating historical read. It's called The Social Transformation of American Medicine. Wow. And it really gives you an idea as to the systems that developed, and the governmental structures, and the complexities, and the consistent disempowerment of the people, including insurance and all of the layers of it.
Yes, we could unpack a lot about that, some of which might interest our listeners and some of which might.
I know, right? But... No, we won't. We don't need to go there, Joan. No.
No, I've had conversations with different people about facets of that, and I am someone that finds all that interesting, but I know that's not for everyone.
Exactly.
I do want to come back to the womb and the womb wisdom. And actually, before we do that, I want to ask, was your C-section your first birth? And did you then successfully, or I don't even know if that's the right word, deliver vaginally after that for later babies?
I did, with both of them. It was like an increasingly empowering progression with each birth, so the second one was in a hospital with a nurse midwife. Mm-hmm. And there was some, again, that was a whole other space of learning and stepping into my power around that. Like, there were pieces of that birth where I mean, the first birth was just complete. It felt like complete disempowerment, although it wasn't. There were pieces of it that were me attempting to be in my own power within it. The second one was the next level of that, where, without going into like terrible detail for the sake of time of the interview, just where they were having little pieces of interventions that they wanted, and me saying no to different pieces of it and yes to others. And then in the last one, miraculously, and yet not so miraculously, my body knew exactly what to do. My daughter basically, my water broke at night, and by the morning, I labored all night while my husband slept. I woke him up kind of early in the morning, and then we ended up going to the hospital maybe at 5 a.m. and having some neighbors come over. We went there, had her, and then asked if we could leave, and we left and came home. Like, it was, wow. Yeah, it was really amazing.
Wow. Yes, so that's in a way what's possible. And I guess the other piece I just want to name and get to before we dive into the womb wisdom piece is, that it is to thine own self be true. Like, what is the truth for each of us? And your journey is so inspiring and empowering in that way, because I know many people that just assume a cesarean section is what's necessary for all births, since the
Right.
first was a cesarean. And for some people that may just be
Right.
what's right for them. But to know that it's possible, and I've heard many people who've had multiple children speak to first births are often, the most, we'll say, disempowering, and then by later births, they're, they're like, I'm in charge, or I'm capable. I am capable. I think that's the piece. It's like, I am capable of doing this.
Yeah.
Um, I need support. I need assistance, but I'm capable.
And some women, to be honest, like some, I've gone through the radical birth keepers training
Mhm.
with the Free Birth Society. So, I mean, women who are free birthing, free birthing really in its purest definition is without any assistance, just the mother maybe choosing to be with the father of her baby or a partner. But that is the full free birth. And that really is just allowing for physiological birth to take place. And it's totally possible. It's not for everybody. Again, these are all options for people. There's not any one way that's best for anyone, because we are all meant to have certain experiences, and we're going to know intuitively what that right experiences is for us. So,
Yeah.
but yes, it is a little, I just want to just say one last thing about the cesarean, and that is that it is more challenging nowadays to have a vaginal birth after cesarean, in that a lot of hospitals really don't support that. I sort of got in under this window where they were still supporting that. So it is a little more challenging. It's not impossible. It's totally possible. It's physiologically possible. It's just
Yes.
challenging to advocate for yourself within that system, which is why so many women are deciding to do free birth, even as a vaginal birth after cesarean, simply
Wow.
because they don't want to be disempowered by a system. So
Yeah. And I feel obligated just to say that we are not saying anyone
no,
should do any specific thing. It
not
is
at
right,
all.
as Molly leaves, it is right for you to choose what is right for you, knowing
That's the goal.
risk, yeah, knowing your risks, your predispositions, your need for support. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing that I really embody is, and that we embody in our clinic, is really just having you choose what's right for you. Like I don't have any agenda around what you want to choose. It's really about you stepping into the next space of your own empowerment and recognizing the power that you've built up till now, so that you can take the next big step into the next space.
Yes. So as we start to head towards closing this discussion out, feels important to touch on the womb and the
Yeah.
womb wisdom. And I have a special I have a special love for that, and would love to hear your insights, your lens, your what you bring to the table in that regard.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I feel I'm still in a deep exploration. I am, the womb is so, gosh, infinitesimally, inspirational to me. It has there's so many facets of it. In my knowing, in my deep knowing, it is actually a space of profound technology. And again, the more I am embedding my own consciousness through meditative practices into that space, the more I am seeing how it interfaces with a world in which we don't necessarily see in a third dimensional space. So there's depth to it. That being said, I was completely cut off from my womb, like just having been a part of this culture, and then having the cesarean section trauma on top of it. I couldn't even feel my womb. Now I can feel the tip of my cervix just by thinking about it, or my left ovary, or the inner lining of my womb. Like I can immediately start to feel these spaces. And the more that we just connect mentally, emotionally with our womb, the more it starts to guide us in our own journey. It is in my experience, it is the guiding space of our intuition. And it also holds the capacity to hold the space and the knowings as if there's like these little like web-like tentacles that come out from it for our whole family, for our community. It keeps these tabs on all of the things going on around us in our space as women. And so the more we connect with it, not only does it helping us, again, like we sort of like coming full circle from the beginning of our conversation, we're healing our own womb, we're healing our communities, we're healing our planet, we're healing so many aspects. So that's my take on why it's so important to connect with our womb.
Yes, and I believe I recall you speaking to that when we did the Crucible of Motherhood panel. You were addressing how, in a way, as mothers and our womb space, like we have the technology to be plugged in and
Yes.
have that consciousness, awareness, and intuition of what's needed. So I'm glad we underlined that, we underscored that, we revisited that.
Yeah, and I think everybody that's probably listening to this knows that. Like we've all had that experience, you know.
Yes, intuitively for sure, whether
Yeah,
it's conscious or not fully conscious.
exactly.
Yeah, so I want to give you the opportunity, want to provide you the opportunity just to share with us in a little more depth how people can work with you, what the offers are you have available, and Yin Care, yeah, all of that. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So well, let's see. I mean, we just started offering a 30-minute heart-to-heart consult. Generally speaking, it was put into place to support women who are interested in using our herbal wash product, because oftentimes women have questions about how to use the product, or a lot of women are at their wits' end with yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, etc. And oh my gosh, there's so many reasons why women come to Yin Care, basically because of the product. And God, my heart just goes out to all the women with vaginal and womb issues, because there's just so many, and it really stinks when, and sometimes it literally does stink too, like sadly, but it really sucks. Let's just say it really sucks when all of that really highly sensitive vaginal tissue is not happy. We can't think straight. We can't do anything. So anyway, but that being said, you're welcome to check out that heart to heart if you just want to find out who I am. It's on yincare.com in the Womb Wisdom store. And we have a discount code and that will include all of the, I think I said it would include anything on the store.
Discount for listeners at Womb Wisdom Store. Yeah, so 15%.
Yeah, 15% off.
Anything in the store.
Yeah, and that includes the services too. So you get an extra discount if you want. I also do offer birth reclamation sessions, which is really going back through a traumatic birth or a birth that you just feel like you want to process. It doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago. I have women that want to talk about things that were a long time ago that they just really want to really reframe. There's oftentimes just like someone to hear the story and hear the wisdom that you did hold in that time, to see what you did to take steps to empower yourself, given the circumstances. And it just really helps you hold yourself in a different framework. And kind of similarly, but not in that birth space, but in the space of navigating any other health challenges. We just created this, and did I give you the title of that service? It's like
Restore Your Power.
Yeah, Restore Your Power. Thank you. Sorry about that, because we just are putting it up on the website. Restore Your Power is a similar type session. And again, all those longer sessions are an hour and a half, and it's really helping to reframe any type of medical situation, or if you've just got a diagnosis and you want to go through your options and step into your power around that, and you're navigating all of that, that's a great session for that as well. And then the last one is really just awakening your womb wisdom, which is really like a longer session of just going into, again, an hour and a half of really discussing any type of womb issues or reconnecting with your womb, and all of that kind of stuff. So it just gives you more of an opportunity to chat with me for a longer period. The Yao Clinic is I manage the back end of it, but that's really my husband is the physician there. If you're really feeling like you need someone that's looking at all different aspects, he does work remotely, but he's a challenge to get an appointment with. I won't deny that. But the physical clinic we have is in Denver, Colorado, with that's been our main clinic, and we've been slowly moving it to Lander, Wyoming, which is where we are, based out of. But he has a lot of patients that are still in Denver. So that is yaoclinic.com. And if you're a practitioner and are interested in what I'm doing with practitioners, you can check out yaocompany.com. And there is a link on that page to the ambassador program. And that would be learning about what it means to be an ambassador for Yin Care. But yeah, the overall health kind of aspect of that.
Yes. And I know you also have, if listeners go to your webpage, yincare.com, you have free womb empowerment that they can sign up and receive.
Yes. And so thank you so much for that, Joan. I appreciate it, because the womb wisdom or the womb empowerments is like the pop-up you'll see on the page when you come to yincare.com. And that is like a newsletter, and you get these womb empowerments. And it is a very carefully curated set of emails that will be going out that basically walks you through using the womb empowerments that help you step more fully into connecting with your womb and your power. There's not a lot of, if any, in those emails. I don't think there's any real marketing, but it does allow, and most of the emails, we're very respectful of your email box. We're not there to just market to you. It really is this mission and this ministry of helping you step into your own power. However, it will alert you if you sign up for those. Also, you'll be on the email list to getting alerts to when we do have the health creation coursework and the self-governance classes that we'll be teaching, etc. So, and the Yin Care podcast for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, so I encourage you listeners to check that out. And I have one final thought before we wrap up, which is, I don't know if you found this, but that, in talking about that disempowered space that people can get into when they interface with the medical systems, I'm wondering if there is ever like failure, particularly like around birth. I know that can come up, like feelings of failure.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm saying that we have failed, but that we can feel like we failed, that
Yes.
that maybe that dovetails with the disempowered state you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason that was coming to mind. So I don't know if someone has that place of, is judging themselves because they were less empowered than maybe they wanted to be, or maybe that we're offering them a choice of that you could be more empowered in these ways, but they're feeling badly about how they've done it in the past. Is there anything you would say to them?
Sure, absolutely. There's so many facets of it. First of all, coming into a space of knowing grace for yourself, like holding yourself with grace and love and I know that that's hard, especially when you're feeling really vulnerable and like a failure, if you choose to use that language. I get it. I've felt that myself. But having this sense of grace and compassion for yourself, and really feeling like the pieces that I help people break apart that you might choose to reflect on are just looking at your own life circumstances in that moment. Like, what was it? Where were you? Who were you? And generally speaking, what usually comes up is like, and also if you're in a medical situation or making medical choices, and the indoctrination and the culturalization that we've had around that, we're all doing the best we can. That's really hard to navigate. Even for the most empowered people, like that's really hard to navigate. So just knowing that you did your best, and knowing that that oftentimes we're meant to come out of that with some other learning too. Like it may oftentimes be a piece of our learning that was actually, in my opinion, curated for our greater learning. Like, for example, with the cesarean section with my son, oh my gosh, there were so many things I kept, like, for years and years and years, feeling like I coulda, shoulda, woulda, and I finally did a session with a woman that does, very clairvoyant and oracular in nature. And my son came in his higher self capacity to the session, and he offered up that he wanted to come in that way, that we had made this arrangement prior to arriving in this embodiment that I would be willing to take on his birth in that capacity. And it was like, as soon as I had that shift and realized, because here's the thing, the baby, I mean, in the aspect of there being a baby, and even if in the aspect of any other medical situation, there's other people, others, spiritual embodiments within the room that are involved in that. And it may be that they needed to have that experience. you may have been the quote victim in a sense, like, but maybe you were actually stepping more fully into your power because you were offering up your body for the realization of that other person to get something out of it. You just don't know.
Mm, mm.
That's like
Yeah.
a really big reframe, you know?
Yes. And so that multidimensional approach of recognizing that it's
Mhm.
not as simple as our 3D bodies,
Exactly.
as is really the primary lens that the medical model uses, but that there's so much more. There is the soul's journey and the baby's journey and all those pieces.
And
So,
honestly, Joan, that's exactly what I want these beautiful spiritual women to recognize, is that all these pieces that you have brought to your spiritual journey are, you can take them into these medical settings
mm,
and see the pieces in that framework. And for whatever reason, we have been taught to disengage that aspect when
mhm.
we get a diagnosis or something, and that's not true. That's not truth. Truth is bringing that piece into it and seeing that bigger picture.
Yes. 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 And I think that's like, whoo, we brought it full circle.
I think so too.
That's where we're meant to wrap it up and end. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you for your
you.
work, and thank you for
Oh.
being an advocate and a voice for even it's like seeding into our consciousness as a collective that this is possible, that we can be more empowered in our health and as we interface with medical systems, and that there is another way.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joan. This was so wonderful. I loved it. And thank you so much for letting me bring this message to all of your beautiful women.
Yes. And thank you, beautiful women who are listening. Thanks for spending this time with us. And the reminder I like to offer, because I think it's all connected, is just that reminder that whether we're making ripples in our life or you're making some big ass waves, Margaret, I'd say, that as we do that, that you are love and you are loved. And we are love and we are loved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Crone Codes podcast. If you appreciated what was shared, please rate, review, subscribe, and comment wherever you get your podcasts.